for a lot of shows, even ones that tend to be serious, dramas and whatnot, they will do the comedic episode. And certainly for Star Trek, The Trouble with Tribbles was definitely that. And, of course, The Trouble with Tribbles is one of its most famous episodes, with playing on people's desire for pets, I guess. So, of course, the Tribbles, these little lovable fur balls that make noises and just keep reproducing. Yes, even worse than rabbits. As McCoy puts it, they're apparently born pregnant. And then he goes on to say they're bisexual. Well, it seems like more or less they seem to be like osmosis. They're just like cloning themselves or whatnot. But I don't know. I didn't really want to see the triple porn. So Kirk and crew are given a distress call. They head for this space station, and they get there because, there's some threat from the Klingons. They're nearing Klingon space, and they get there. And turns out it's some guy who's overseeing some grain shipments, and he wants Kirk to protect it because he suspects the Klingons would sabotage it. Turns out, yes, that's exactly what they intended to do, but Kirk, at the outset, he thought he was going to have to rush in and battle a Klingon a warship attacking the station, but that's not the case, and he's already in a bad state with this guy, and but he does have a point. They clarify it with Starfleet, and that, yeah, Kirk, you got to protect this shipment of grain and make sure it's not messed with or what have you. Meanwhile, some peddler guy who in a lot of ways reminds me of Harry Mudd. He's just not evil like Harry Mudd, but he's just trying to make a buck here, apparently in this future where there's no money. For some people there is, but in a lot of ways I guess he's doing it by barter, as he offers all kind of trinkets and stuff, and ultimately the Tribbles tend to be the more popular of his products, as he presents one trying to sell it to the bartender in exchange for a drink. Uhura sees it and is charmed with it, so the bartender's impressed with this, and so he decides, yeah, all right, I'll buy some and sell them at the bar, to ladies and whatnot. And so there you go. Well, of course, they didn't know about the rapid reproduction they do, and this keeps happening. But even under that, that's not the only comedic aspect of the absurdity of the Tribbles. It's just, there's jokes here and there. There's a bar fight between the Klingons show up, by the way. But it's on peaceful terms, so, you can't do anything. But, of course, a bar fight happens when one of the Klingons insults humans, and then Captain Kirk, and then ultimately the Enterprise, and Scotty, who was supposed to be the adult in the room. He can't stand it when anyone insults the ship, so the fight begins, and it's your typical scene of bar fights that you've seen from cowboy movies and so on. And then there's the comedic scene where Kirk has to dress down his officers. They weren't supposed to behave that way, and ultimately finds out it was Mr. Scott who started it. And then he figures, oh, Scotty, they were insulting me, so you decided to come. He said, well, no, I didn't throw a punch at that. It was the Enterprise they insulted. I had to fight for that. So, yeah, there's aspects of that. And then, of course, the ultimate plot was, there's a Klingon agent there who, strangely enough, passes for a human being. Well, watch the final season of Enterprise. It will explain that. And they do it very well. Actually, that's how you do prequel stories. Yeah. I looked very carefully, but I didn't see Sisko, even though I know he's there. Check out Deep Space Nine for that story. But anyway, the agent has managed to poison the grain, and it was to be used to kill off a bunch of colonists once they used it for food. But meanwhile, the Tribbles sacrificed themselves by eating the grain, which they loved, and it killed them. So that's how they discovered, it's poisoned, And then they also discover that the Tribbles do not like Klingons, and this reveals the agent for being a Klingon. And so there you go. The Klingon captain, he only has a few scenes here, and he's a bit of a smartass, and there's Kirk knows him and all this stuff. there were 3 different Klingon commanders that were introduced throughout the series, and they did come back together in Deep Space Nine again, and that was interesting. But again, they had the regular, now established look of Klingons on that show in real Star Trek, not the fake crap that's on now. But you kind of wonder, hey, how come they look like that now? They were using the same names and everything. Well, as they got older, and Klingon lifespans are much longer than humans, their original features must have sprouted and grew out, Again, check with Enterprise for the explanation and how it all ties in with Khan and his people. Yeah. So, I guess that's what that was. But anyway, there you go. And plus, the Klingon commander sure looked familiar. Gee, where did we see that guy before? Huh. But anyway, the ultimate threat of the Tribbles was, of course, their massive reproduction. And they had to find a solution for this because they were getting out of hand. I mean, Kirk sat on one. And so Scotty beams them all onto the Klingon ship. And they all have a good laugh about it and fly on. Well, at first, Kirk thought, oh, you didn't beam them into space, huh? Oh, no, that would be heartless. So he beamed them into the Klingon ship, who, of course, would slaughter them and beam them out into space. But they all thought it was hilarious at the time. I guess they didn't think it through. But, so... yes, a beloved Star Trek episode, and very cleverly referenced in later on in Deep Space Nine, where Mr. Worf explains the enemy status between the Klingons and Tribbles, and apparently Tribbles are the ultimate enemy of Klingons. And they have a good laugh at his expense over that. But boy, you can understand why, But anyway, there you go. And they obviously were the heroes of this episode as well, even though they were the threat at the same time. Isn't that something? Yeah, well, that's Star Trek for you. Yeah. All right, Trouble with Tribbles.
All right. Thank you for watching and listening. Why not like and subscribe and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my mini stores and have plenty of goodies for you. Hats, mugs, stickers, posters, all that goody stuff. Plus, you can head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book Night Night. Oh, yeah. Plus, you can also catch my podcast, Mr. Nailsin Show, over at RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on my channel at BitChute. That's the Mr. Nailsin channel on BitChute.com.